All right, here we go, my friends. What is up? I know that the markets don't look that great, but I'm going to show you why there's reason to be optimistic, even though I do believe we're going to go down a little bit further. I've been in 3 cycles. I've seen it all. I can't say that I'm going to predict everything perfectly because I don't. There's nobody out there that can. But I am going to try to guide you as best I can of this financial advice. But we are going to look at some things that will help you to prepare just in case this scenario plays out. And I'm going to give you 2 different scenarios, but there is one I'm leaning more towards. And if you follow me on Twitter, then you've seen it recently. And it kind of goes along with the idea of the government shutdown ending. If we don't see bullishness today, or at the very least by tomorrow, which Fridays typically aren't bullish, but if we don't see that with today or tomorrow, then there's a much higher likelihood that we're going to dip down to that Bitcoin 92 to 95K CME gap, and then we'll go up. I mean, can you imagine the fear? I know the fear is already high, and I'm going to show you that as well. But that's basically what I was saying here, saying that short term is tricky. I was saying that 108K seemed to be the resistance area, and we actually front ran that by a little bit. I think it turned around high 107K area. So if you want to join our Discord, I keep people up to date with my thoughts on this. We've made some money recently on the small pump. I'm in a profit right now on a short. I did get stopped out last night thinking that we could take a long, but I had a very tight stop because I wasn't sure if things were going to get bullish again, and it looks like they turned back over. So what I'm going to show you here is currently we are in extreme fear. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about liquidation heat map. This idea that I put out there, when was this? November 11th, so 2 days ago, that the alts still need to do this. We'll talk about that. And I've got a few more of the charts that are going to support the theory that we are going down once more to this CME gap. And then I'll show you how a lot of these charts here are rolling over currently. And it's not going to stay that way. I'm going to show you how these charts actually look bullish, even though they're going to roll over one more time, or it seems to me they are. So this is all about preparing you. I want you to be prepared. If you have some money on the side, I'm going to show you where you can deploy it. And hopefully, that level holds. We'll see. So let's just start with the extreme fear. There's not many tokens here. When things are very bullish, you'll see a lot of tokens that are over 100% gains on the day. Things just aren't there. Yeah, so not much to talk about here. I mean, we got inflation at 3%, interest rate 7%, which is going to come down because they have to fix the economy after they broke it, right? So unemployment's 4.3%. Just understand that unemployment is the biggest factor in all of this in my mind. They lie about the numbers, so you're not going to be able to get the true number. But whatever number they post is what they're using to say, okay, the market still looks okay. It can go up higher. But if this was to spike to like 6% or something, then it would be time to consider that maybe the top is in. It's not in yet, though. Don't let people tell you that. I definitely believe we're going up higher. But we may have to go short term lower first, and we're going to look at that. So we can start here at the liquidation map, the liquidation heat map. This is for Bitcoin. This is a monthly view, and a lot of our liquidity resides around, I don't know, it starts maybe 92K all the way down to like 88K. Now there is a lot more down here that could get hit. Say if we got some cascading liquidations, and stops just kept getting hit and hit and hit, then it could come as low as 81K, but I don't really think that's going to happen. I think we'll stop at 88K, maybe a wick into 88K or something like that. But it could stop around 90K, 92K, something like that. It doesn't have to take out all these longs because we know a lot of that money's already been liquidated, right? So they're probably not going to reach down and grab everything. They'll do that later in the bear market. So of course, there's definitely a lot of liquidity up here as well. In fact, let me just see here. No, it's about even. From here and here, it's about even. But if you look at the higher time frame, I wonder if this is going to show us anything different here. Yeah, look how this is much hotter here. This is the hottest liquidity area currently because it's the brightest. So this makes a lot of sense, 89 to 90K area. And then from there, you'd get that bounce. So, could wick into that. and then alts are ready to go after that. You know, once Bitcoin allows them to, basically. If we've still got Bitcoin dominance rising, and I'm going to show you that chart here in a minute, then you could see alt, you know, not move. Maybe they've already done their bleeding down 20% from here, you know, whatever it may be. Some could do 30% from here, I guess. But once that happens, they may just go sideways for a bit, chop around, and then once Bitcoin does its next move up, it'll give them a chance to go. And there is a chance that they just bounce with Bitcoin. It's happened before, so we'll see. It's all about timing. But you can see, you know, most of that liquidity resides there. You got a lot up here at 135. You got a lot here at 140, and it stretches all the way up to 150. So that's why a lot of people are saying, okay, the next move, if the bounce happens, you need to be watching from like 139 to, you know, 150K. So on the liquidity map, that makes a lot of sense, right? It's not just in the chart. And here is the altcoin view. You see, you got a lot of people shorting recently, but most of the liquidity is down here, people that were longing, and some were wiped out today, and there's more down here below. But if we look at a higher time frame, like a monthly, and I can't give you a figure on this because this chart doesn't really have a figure. It's just like it's 0.015. What is this, October? No, that's November there. Trying to find that October dip. I think I'll have to go back to 3 months. There it is. Okay. So I'm going to show you this on a chart, but my idea is that this wick has not been tested enough yet. And I don't think it has to come all the way down to the bottom of the wick, by the way. I just think it needs to test some of this wick. And I would say for the overall chart here, it's going to sweep this wick here, I believe. Yeah, maybe it just liquidates all of these right here and that's it. Because there's really nothing below it, right? Okay, so anyway, that's just an idea on liquidity. This is the thing we want to talk about now. On the 11th, I had this idea where, okay, here's what Cody did. And, you know, fractals repeat over and over. This is a very low time frame that I was looking at, 3 hour. But what I noticed was you had this little W formation, and M's usually follow after W's, right? So at minimum, you were going to come down and test this. And that's what Cody did here. It did a W, it did an M, but instead of just bouncing there, it actually went under. So I was thinking, okay, well, you know, if I'm seeing charts that haven't really done that yet, then maybe the rest of these need to do it as well. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to pull a fib for this full wick, you know, from bottom to top. And here's my, you know, here's what Cody did. It hit the golden pocket, and then it wicked down almost to the 0.75. So instead of going all the way down to the 0.75, I just front ran it here and said, okay, you know, maybe 12 cents is what Dogecoin hits before things are ready to move up. And the thing is, I mean, it's really not that much of a drop, right, for alts. And I know people have been dealing with a lot of drops throughout this cycle, but, you know, even if you bought here way up at 17 cents or something, maybe you were accumulating there, which, you know, that would have been reasonable. You know, everybody probably thought that was the bottom, and it still could be, but things have to hold here. I'm going to look at the chart here in a minute. We're going to see if it did. You know, this little 16-cent area right here for Doge specifically would have to hold, right, for it to start moving up. I mean, if you lose that level, then this is definitively happening. I mean, it makes too much sense, right? If you lose a level of support, you know, it finds a new level. But I want y'all to understand it's not something to worry about. If anything, it's an opportunity if you do have money on the side. And although it's not a guarantee, it would be a great opportunity, right? You would lower your dollar cost average for this token or for whatever token you were looking at. I can't say that all of these are going to do this exact thing because the pattern doesn't look exactly the same on all these. I mean, if you look at Cody, for example, it already did this and it went way up here. But if all these alts are going to dip, then this one still has to come down here and retest this breakout that it did. So the good news is with something like Cody is it's ahead of the other tokens, but it still needs to do a correction. So the question is, does it come down to the 0.5, which makes a lot of sense to me actually, or does it just, you know, get to the base of this shoulder right there? I would say 0.33, you know, 0.3, somewhere in there, it could dip to. It's not out of the realm of possibility of it coming down. Well, no, I think 0.3 is probably about the right number. 3 cents on that one. So 3 cents on Cody, you know, 12-ish cents on Doge. Who knows? It could wick lower. You know, sometimes that happens if there's cascading liquidations. So we'll get into the live chart and look at that. And I talked to you about this chart here for total 3 ES, which is the ratio of total market cap excluding Bitcoin, ETH, and stable coins. We don't want to add stable coins to this. It'll just muddy things up. But then it's compared back to Bitcoin, which is a great thing to do. You always want to compare against Bitcoin strength for your alts. So this is kind of like the total alt market comparing back to Bitcoin, you know, with some of the fluff taken out of it. So what we're looking at, initially I thought maybe this wick right here was it, and you know, it was just this one and that was it. But with this new idea, now that we have more information, I think it's more realistic that we just did this right here. And now we're just rolling over one more time, which that would make this wick here, I believe. I mean, the wicks happen different every cycle. So I can't say for sure, you know, if this exact wick here had happened last cycle, then, you know, maybe it would have come down all the way to here. I can't say for sure, but, you know, it could be this one possibly equaling this one. And then we've got one more to come down. But I mean, if we were to put a fib on this, let's see. Yeah, I mean, you can see where I have some alerts right there. So that's the golden pocket. That's the 786. I really don't know if it's going to, you know, maybe this is this actually. Hang on, let me redraw this for you. So maybe this is this. And then we've got another one there. Well, okay, here we go. Is that what I want to do? So we've got a breakdown there. And we've got a breakdown there. And you had a big wick or a big drop right there. Okay, so yeah, I think it's possible that this wick doesn't get retested completely. In fact, I would bank on that happening, but you know, still coming down, I don't know, maximum down to here maybe. And then starting to come out of that. Of course, don't look at the timing here because I'm on a high time frame chart. Does that make sense? Inverted head and shoulders, maybe double bottom. I mean, yeah, double bottom makes sense there. So yeah, something like that where this, yeah, that kind of makes sense. Okay. Yeah, so something like this, maybe even lower. I have that alert right there. Yeah. Yeah, so this sort of makes sense to me. Of course, it would happen much more quickly because we're on a high time frame chart. But there you go. You got a little W at the bottom, and then you break out of it. This ends up being an M structure. You go up here, you create an M, and then you have a W coming out of it, a V-shaped recovery, kind of. Of course, this back here, this only took a matter of days to happen. This took from 31st of October to 5th of November. So this didn't take long at all. How long did this take us? 7. Okay, so this took about it took like 2 months, maybe 3 months for that to happen. So we're already breaking down there. I mean, maybe 2 weeks or something to find the next bottom. That's kind of what I was figuring in the last video I was looking at. I was like, okay, it looks like 20th to 25th of November looks about right. So we'll see. I mean, I think we'll have a lot more information by next week, you know, if things start moving down here. But if we look at some key indicators, that one doesn't really matter. Of course, that's on the weekly. We need to look at something much lower. Okay, so we are in the red money flow here. And this is very similar to what I was showing on the Dogecoin chart where you have a W, you have an M. This still needs to come down here at minimum. If this holds, then we're just ready. But if it loses this level, then all the alts are going to bleed just a little bit more, and then we'll finally be ready to go. And doesn't this make a lot of sense to you? The way they've been treating us, well, I say they, all of this is an algorithm, and it's really all in the charts, but we get caught up in the low time frame. So I'll just put it this way. The way that the algorithm has been acting this cycle has been very difficult to predict, right? And so we have to kind of expect, the news items, the news narrative that we're expecting to play out. We have to figure that, okay, it's probably going to make us think, yeah, this was in the charts, hindsight. But it was just one of those things where it seemed it was going to be bullish initially, like the government opening back up, but everybody was thinking the government shutdown was going to cause a pump. And now when it doesn't, it creates even more fear. More people leave the market, and this benefits the whales that want to buy lower. Because if you think about it, they've got a lot of money, right? You can't just, throw your whole, whatever they have, 10 million, 50 million, 100 million. You can't just buy it all of a sudden. You need price action to come down to the next level so that you can buy much cheaper there. This is where the liquidity resides currently, is lower. Here's all these people down here that have longed altcoins, longed Bitcoin. The gaps down here around 92 to 95K. Here on the, I actually didn't show you that chart yet, but all the liquidity is down here right now. And I bet if we look at the volume, actually I haven't looked at this in a while. Yeah, there is a node right there. Well, you can kind of see the gap right there, right? So there's a node right here at 95K. I mean, it would be great if we just dipped down to 95K, had a little wick into this gap, and then we were ready to go. I hope that's the case. But, there are some nodes here as well at 84, 87. What else do we have down here? There's a final one around 80K. Of course, it would never go. There's just no way it's going below this level. We are going back up, but I mean, it's down there anyway. I don't think that'll hit because that gap's already been closed. In fact, that gap's been closed as well. So this just makes a lot of sense right here that it probably will stop here at this CME gap, but it could wick down. It happens sometimes. So let's see. What else do I want to show you? Oh, yeah, this is really interesting. I kind of skipped ahead here. Well, let me just jump back here real quick because I don't want to get ahead of myself. So here's another thing to look at. Everybody probably saw that dominance was dipping right there, and they thought, okay, this is it. It's just going to break down. But we still haven't broke below this line. So money flow for the Bitcoin dominance is still in the green, and that's on a daily chart. What does it look like on the 3? Yeah, so on the 3 hour, there's a bullish divergence. It is slightly into the red, but you've got RSI and stochastic RSI curling up. So, usually these green dots, when you're in a red money flow on Market Cipher, aren't going to be that powerful. But we'll see. I mean, it could turn into something powerful because I still believe, I mean, it's tough to know. Maybe it just stops here when it moves back up. Somewhere in here, there's an order block or two there. Sweeps that or sweeps this maybe. Around 61%, but I still think it's possible it could hit this as well. And I'm going to show you on the USDT dominance what I'm seeing. So we have to look at all these charts to kind of come up with a complete idea, and that's what we're doing here. I do believe Bitcoin dominance is going back up. You can see right here it's starting to move back up. And when this happens, remember, altcoins bleed. That's just what happens. But we're getting close. I mean, I know I keep harping on that we're going to pump. We're going to pump. And a lot of other people are too. It's a difficult cycle, and nobody ever really knows, no matter how difficult the cycle is. But it's a difficult cycle to predict on a short-term basis. But we do see the pump coming. Our Discord, we have very good analysts In fact, T Insight, I want to just highlight her really quickly. This T Insight is one of the best you're going to find. She found, well, there she is right there. She found the top and the bottom, last two tops and bottoms, 2021, 2022. Yeah, here she was actually calling it before it happened, well before it happened. But you need to follow people, and a lot of times these people are not going to have many followers. I'm glad she's with us though, because she does help the group to know what's going to happen from a macro scale before it happens. And we've got some really exciting things that she's shown recently that are going to help us prepare for the future and make even more money. Because she sees things in the future. I mean, check this out. She was actually calling for this token right here before anybody even knew anything about it. And I still don't think anybody, people don't know much about it. But she was telling people that this was going to pump. And so even through all of this shakiness, people in our group were buying this one way down here. It did about a 10x. I think it actually did about 11x because they were probably buying more down here. But anyway, I don't want to harp on it too much. I just want to let you know that if you're looking for guidance, and none of it's financial advice, but we have a pretty good track record. If you're looking for, a way to navigate the market because maybe you don't know, and we do teach things. I've got an education channel that talks about more than just crypto. It talks about the 50-year mortgage, things like that. So we talk about all kinds of things, and we prepare for the future to buy low, sell high. It doesn't matter what the asset class is. So if you're looking for a community like that that's smaller, then check the description below and join us. Okay, I didn't mean to get into that. What else do we have here? So let me show you, we talked about Bitcoin dominance. I've got just a few more things to show you here and we'll wrap it up. So this is going back to the Doge, going back to this idea here. I just want to show you what the live chart looks like and how things played out. So number one, why would we be bullish on Dogecoin here right now? If we're looking at a 2155 EMA here, I've got the EMA open. You've got your 55 up here, and you've got your 21 here. The trend is down. The 21 has not been broken. The 55 hasn't even been tested yet, which you absolutely have to see at minimum before you can figure that another pump through it is going to happen. And I'll show you here on Cody. Actually on Cody, yeah, it did break through it. Okay, so here's what I mean. We're looking at daily chart on both. Cody didn't really follow the same pattern too much. Well, it kind of did. Yeah, it was rejecting, but it was shooting up out of the EMA multiple times. So it's not as clean as Doge because it's a lower cap. But you can see it rejected one more time there, which I believe that's kind of what's happening right now. And once it did that and finally found its bottom, then it tested the 55. And once it tested the 55, it came back down to the 21, found support, and then it blasted through the 55. So now you're just using 21 as support one more time. Could dip, back once more into these support ranges. Look how the wicks are on the bottom side here. The wicks are on the top side on this one, so that meant that was the top. So yeah, you're looking at maybe one more dip. Maybe this rolls over a little bit, but it's already satisfied the requirement for it to move higher, and Doge hasn't just yet. So it's still rejecting the 21, needs to come up and touch the 55 once. And I'll show you what that looks like on a daily chart. So, if we do come down here, it looks like this, and then it comes up, touch the 55, then it uses the 21 as support, and then it pumps. So that's the idea you want to keep in your mind. If this next dip happens, even if it doesn't happen, I mean, you still need to see that. So even if you hold here, and this is the invalidation of my idea that we need to go lower. So the invalidation looks like this, where this support holds, it's more of a zone. It's not an exact line. I mean, you are getting some wicks down here saying that people were buying, and you were getting wicks to the top side there saying people were selling short term. So if this holds around 16 cents, then yeah, you're ready to start moving up immediately. But if you lose this level, which is the idea that I have. So it's either this or it's this, more choppy action like that, which I didn't bring this down low enough. It could be like more like 12 cents, but you get the idea anyway. Yeah, so I'm hoping this speeds up for us, and then by the 20th or so, 25th, we finally get that bottom, and then maybe by early December, you finally start seeing a real move up. It'd be nice to have a nice Christmas like that, right? Where things are starting to move up, which I think it will be by that time. Okay, so I got one more thing to show you here, and I think this is the most interesting part of it all to me, that the USDT dominance is kind of showing us the way I believe. I mean, it just had a little pump, and I'm going to show you that here. Actually, we don't need this anymore, so I'm going to make this bigger. All right, so on a higher time frame, here's what I did without even considering what was going on over here. I like these. Let me just make sure if I can recreate this. So I like these, these cup and handle formations, or Adam and Eve formation, inverted head and shoulders, whatever you want to call it. This one's kind of messy, but if you take, anytime you have a dip like this, a bowl shape, and you take up to the neckline, which I believe, let's see, I don't know if it's here or if it's here, but anyway, I'm just going to take it between the two. I think this is how I did that. Yeah. So it was something like this, and then I stacked it on that candle body there. I'm a little bit higher than that one, but you get the idea anyway. So the idea is, when you have a bowl shape like this, and maybe this is the bowl, this complete thing here, and then that's the handle. It's like a teacup handle. And you could even take it and put it what is that, the bottom? Maybe this is the bottom. Yeah, here's the bottom of the teacup handle. So there's your neckline of the cup, teacup handle, kind of like the retest after the breakout. And this is on USDT dominance. Remember, this is the inverse of what we want. If this goes up, prices come down on crypto. If this goes down, prices go up on crypto. So I'm going to show you where the resistance line is here. So you can see it here, right? On the higher time frame chart, that's what it looks like. Here's what it looks like on the 3-hour chart. Here's a smaller one that is playing out, I believe. And I measured it from this wick. I don't know. I think maybe the neckline was about right there, possibly. And you could put it a couple different places, really. I mean, you could use this as your teacup handle, which it wouldn't really reach to that level in this case. So I would just say that the resistance area for USDT dominance, in my mind anyway. Let me just see one more thing here. I think that was the neckline right there, actually. So I could either stack it here and it goes a little bit higher, or put it at the base of this one. Yeah, it gets into that. Okay, so we're just going to call it that. So we're going to say 5.6 to 5.66-ish is the area that it could reject from, and that would be good for us. I just want to make sure there's no other area. Oh, well, there's a little bit more up here. I didn't think about this. There is some areas here where there's some order blocks. Yeah, so I wonder if we did this. Yeah, I had an alert here at 6%. So, could it wick through this line? Yeah, I mean, there's a trend line there. So maybe this is just a short-term resistance. Maybe it resists here, and then there's some kind of bounce on alts, and then it pushes one more time, and that's the final bottom. So yeah, I would be, in fact, I'm going to make an alert on this trend line right here, and I'll let y'all know if it hits. But yeah, I got a couple different alerts there prepared for it. And then finally, this kind of brings everything together, where we're seeing a lot of these tokens have sell signals on MACD, like Zcash. It had a huge pump. Litecoin here is coming up to the midline of MACD and it's rejecting. You can see this one on Monero is starting to roll over. Near is rolling over. ICP, and I think this is on, yeah, this is on daily chart. So these lag, what this means is on a lower time frame chart, this rollover is already happening, right? Of course it is, because we're seeing prices dip. But anyway, I just want you to understand, like right here, there's a perfect sell signal here on Trump. Even though it is above the MACD midline, which is bullish, you're still getting a bearish signal above the midline. So, you know, maybe like here with Dash, for example, maybe what's going to happen is the MACD is just going to curl down. It's going to come back to the midline here to retest it, and then also be ready to go again. That's the idea you want to be watching for on the MACD. Okay, so I hope this was useful to you. These are my complete ideas, and I'll keep posting things on X, but you really should join our Discord if you want more detailed thoughts about what we're seeing. We do videos every week or two where we explain, you know, where things are and where things are headed, and we keep you grounded. We do have a spreadsheet, by the way, that has all of our favorite picks, the targets that we're hoping they're going to hit. So you're prepared ahead of time, basically. And, you know, that's all that matters to us. We want you to do the very best you can this cycle. It's interesting that Pax Gold actually has a buy signal here, by the way, which I guess is probably because, you know, the gold chart is starting to turn up as well. Okay. Well, that'll do it for me. I hope y'all have a great weekend. I know it's just Thursday, but you know, we're looking forward to the weekend anyway. I don't know what I'm saying. I need to just wrap this thing up. Okay. So see you next week. We'll try to do another one, and we'll update everything, and just keep an eye on my X until then at Bike for Sale.